All right, episode 27. It's hard to start off with the playoffs when there's like a lot of that's going on. So I wanted to just start with like, good job by the Chargers. They just hired Jim Harbaugh. That's fire. And that kind of goes along with what I've been saying. I don't know if you agreed with me or not, but like after what college football did to Jim Harbaugh this season, I don't understand why he would be in like any big hurry to rush back. So
Oh no, I completely agree with you.
I think
I
him kind of going out on a high note, then taking the NFL job, like good for him, and shout out to the Chargers. Great hire.
Yeah, they got a dog, I think. And I think that it's been like rumored that he was going to end up going there for like the last 2 years. It felt like they always kind of had an interest in him, and he always had an interest in them. Um, I believe that he's going to be taking a couple guys from that Michigan staff along with him, which I think some of those guys were already NFL caliber coaches. I know for sure that the defensive coordinator was a name that was kind of going around as far as like some defensive coordinator openings in the NFL. So, and I know that I liked what I saw from him out of this season, and I think he was there. I think this was his first season because they lost their DC last year to the NFL. But I thought he was good enough to go to the NFL, so good for him. As a Penn State fan, I'm glad I don't have to worry about Harbaugh, but Michigan will still probably kick the
Seriously,
shit out of us for like
probably.
5 more years now. They'll probably get Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Urban needs to get back. Next thing, Eagles hired Vic Fangio, which is like a pretty decent hire, and it seems that like was in the works. I mean, it feels that way, and it feels like Sirianni had like a real plan going in, and is starting to execute on that plan because I kind of like today that he finally came out and was like, yeah, like the season blew. That's all I wanted to hear because how
Agreed.
it was just like everything wasn't a big deal. And they were like, and I get it, like you have to save phase at some point, but at some point you had to address the elephant in the room. I like that he did that today. And then they went and got Vic, and then we'll see what they do from an offensive coordinator standpoint. But seems like Sirianni has a plan. He's executing on that plan. And I feel like Vic Fangio is a really great hire for the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I mean, very shortly after him and the Dolphins agreed to part ways, it was reported that he was pretty much just going to go right to the Eagles. He's from PA, and he was on the Eagles. He was a consultant or like some type of role with them a few years ago, and the Eagles were looking to bring him in as their DC 2 years ago before Steichen, I believe, but he ended up picking the Dolphins. So I think it'll be interesting to have him in there. I think that the positive about having him in there as your DC is I don't think you're going to have to worry about him leaving and going to taking a head coaching job. So as long as he does it, as long as he is solid, then I think he'll be around for a little while. I also don't really think he would have like the desire to really go anywhere else since he's from PA. He's kind of older, and like it seems like he's maxed out at defensive coordinator as far as the hierarchy goes. I thought what he did with the Dolphins on defense was good in terms of like what they were working with, right? Like they had so many injuries. There was only so much that he could realistically do with that defense. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I think it's a decent hire. On the offensive,
there's an entire like coaching tree of the Fangio style defense across the entire NFL, and to have the godfather of the entire thing, you're probably in a pretty good spot. But go ahead about the offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, as far as the offense goes, seen a couple interviews. They've interviewed Jim Bob Cooter,
I hope
Gerard Johnson.
I thought that was a fake tweet. Like I literally read that and was like, that's a fake tweet, and then it wasn't. So I hope they hire him. But go ahead, my bad.
And then Cliff Kingsbury. None of I think out of the three of those, like the Jim Bob Cooter is probably who I'm highest on. Like Cliff Kingsbury is good for half a season, like you and I talked about. And then Gerard Johnson just doesn't have any play calling experience. I think he did a good job with CJ Stroud as the QB coach, but taking on play calling experience is a whole different ball game. So I'll be interested to see which route they go on the
The
offense. But
the only
the
reason I want Cliff Kingsbury to come to Philly is if that means that Andrew works in Philly. That's the only reason.
that,
But go ahead.
yeah, that would be awesome. I would be a fan of that as well. But yeah, the press conference today, 30 minutes late. I would imagine that was because they were talking with Vic Fangio, probably about coming to Philly. But it was nice to hear Sirianni like take responsibility for sucking, and look and have a plan moving forward. The OC is going to be handled by the OC, or the offense is going to be handled by the OC. Defense is going to be handled by the DC. It does leave you with the question of what does Sirianni do as a head coach if he's not doing anything on offense or anything on defense. So that's still up in the air. I mean, basically, he's a cheerleader. The
Okay, come on,
rallier of
don't do
the
that to me.
no, the rallier of troops is how I would prefer. But no, I think it was good to hear all that stuff. Him saying that he has to reprove himself is refreshing, and not rest on having, like, from a record standpoint, 11-6 is good, but expectation standpoint, they were not close to meeting expectations.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that completely. And even like at the end of the season when he was being cocky, like, no, I'm not worried about my job, like, but like just all the shit that was going on at the end of the year, it seems like it's kind of settled and some good stuff starting to trend. So yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who they bring in as the OC. I don't know. I haven't really heard any names besides those three guys.
Yeah,
So
and I was saying, I was thinking like there's some other minimal, like, I mean there's some other head coaching hires and GM hires and stuff. I feel like we'll probably get into that when like pretty much all the dust is settled. So I figure we can just kind of get into the divisional round. Unless you have anything that you want to add about the Eagles.
oh, they were also talking about Frank Reich coming back.
No.
I don't know
I don't want him
what's
to.
happening there, but I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about it. I don't think I would want him as the OC, but
As a
I
QB
don't,
coach.
maybe as a QB coach. I don't know.
Okay.
I had
Consultant.
one other thing, nothing related to like the Eagles or the Chargers or whatnot, but I saw a tweet that Evan Ingram had 114 catches this year, which was like sixth most in the NFL. And I just feel like that's more significant than it's getting credit for, because Evan Ingram was always that guy in New York that everybody kind of expected to break out. And right when he got to Jacksonville, he started turning up. So I feel like that deserved a little bit more credit. 114 receptions from Evan Ingram is impressive. So good for him. Yeah, I just want to
He
give
was
him
like
his
always,
flowers for that.
he wasn't like bad. He was just like always hurt. And then like now it seems like he's like he's like healthy and putting together like multiple healthy seasons. So that's probably why you're seeing like a little bit of a late career resurgence from Evan Ingram.
Probably a better quarterback helps too, because he got the back end of Peyton Manning and like
Eli.
Eli Manning, sorry, and then like what 2 years of Daniel Jones.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's
I
a
would
fair
say that
point.
having Trevor Lawrence is probably a step up.
No, great point. Um, yeah, I wasn't going to start with this game, but it feels like it's probably the most relevant because people care about this game the most. But the Chiefs and Bills game was a great game. It always seems like they match up when they play against each other like very well, and it's always a close game, and something always gets decided at like the last minute, like every time they play.
Yeah, it always comes down to the wire with those two teams, but it's the same old song and dance. Mahomes figures out a way to pull it off against the Bills. And we just leave with what could have been. I mean, there was it feels like the Bills should have won this game. There was opportunities for them. They had Diggs couldn't secure that deep bomb. I forget at what point in the game that was, but there was also just some little mistakes here and there made by Josh Allen that could have led to points and could have led to scores, but Josh Allen, being the gunslinger that he is, didn't end up taking those. Specifically that under route, on 3rd and 9 when he took a deep shot and ended up having to turn the ball over, punt the ball. So there was little things throughout that.
That was
field goal. Sorry.
Yeah, I think probably the way when I was watching this game, what finally caught up to the Bills was all of the injuries that have been piled up on them, like throughout this entire season. On defense, you keep losing key guys every single week. And then like at the start of this week, everybody was talking about Bernard and how impactful of a linebacker he was and how it's really going to hurt them when they were coming out. And I was like, I've never heard of Bernard ever in my entire life. So why is like Cowherd talking about him? Why is Bill Simmons talking about him? Like, I just felt like people were like pulling at the very scraps of the Bills, trying to make them sound better than what they were. But if you heard of Bernard, good for you. I personally haven't. Bottom line, Tyler Bass makes that field goal 9 times out of 10. He missed it. Josh Allen, the Superman approach that everybody loves, that I understand why people love it, because it's a fun style of game to play. Plain and simple, you try to hit Shakir across the middle on a deep shot to win the game, to seal the game on a touchdown, and you don't get clobbered, you get bumped into, and you kind of alligator arm throw the pass and miss Shakir across the middle. Then you kind of get the all 22 view, and you kind of see Diggs crossing underneath with nobody kind of within 10 yards of
15 yards.
Yeah, they're all playing extremely off the ball. And I think that if you dump that down the Diggs, like Andrew said, that was a touchdown. I think that that's like, okay, like that's a little much. Like, I think that you definitely get to 4th and 1, 4th and inches, if not the first down. And I think that that's a pretty generous thing to say. Like, I think that that's fair. Yeah. And I know that Diggs drop was kind of like a big point of emphasis for a lot of talk shows and a lot of people like this entire week. I just like don't really see how in the grand scheme of things, like in that game, that play was that impactful to the outcome. I know it would have helped, but I mean, he dropped a ball. He dropped a deep ball. It's not a good look for Diggs because he's that superstar receiver, but I don't think it played as big of a role as like everybody kind of like blew it up to be. And then you survive the Mecole Hardman fumble, or you survive maybe the worst call of all time by letting Damar Hamlin, which sums up, and
dude,
no hate to Damar Hamlin. Obviously, I know he died, but like,
I'm hating. I'm hating
who Damar Hamlin is as a player, and he will probably never play in the NFL ever again. And apparently it's a check, so he makes that call. So he sees that there's 10 people out on the field. He checks that punt to fake it, and literally gets the ball and like runs like
loses 3 yards,
like runs like I have the football, and he just like gets blown up. They survive the Hamlin fake punt by Mecole fumbling. He sucks. And then lastly, I really think that the Bills should have won this game. I agree. But at the end of the day, the injuries finally caught up to them, and that the Chiefs offense finally looked competent. And that's because the Bills had nothing on defense to have an answer for anything they were doing.
Yeah, the Bills were worn down on defense for sure. I think that Stephon Diggs play was talked about, and I agree. I think that's a big play in the grand scheme of things, because a lot of people consider Diggs a superstar receiver, and if you see like watching the replay of that ball just goes right through his hands. You expect your superstar receivers to step up and make plays in moments like that. And I mean, I think I'm at the point where I think Stephon Diggs is good. I think I'm at the point of considering him no longer like a top 10 receiver based off of this season. Just because he went ghost on all of us this year. I mean, he's had one 100-yard game, and in the time where Josh Allen needs him to step up the most, he was nowhere to be found. So I'm still sitting on that, but right now I might be out.
Pause.
I'm definitely down on Stephon Diggs.
Crazy you just said that.
Like,
that was insane. You're like, I'm sitting on that. Like,
that take. I'm sitting on that take.
Bro. No, I'm right with you. Like, I don't think that that's a bad thing to say. I think probably the reality of the situation is Diggs is hurt. And like, if he's not hurt, like, I don't know what happened. Like, he just like doesn't look the same. He's moving different. He's not moving, like, he's not like attacking the ball with the same confidence as he usually does. He's not like making a difference. So that just leads me to believe that he's hurt.
Yeah, his stomach definitely hurts. His heart too.
Bro, I don't lag at all day on these Zoom calls with these people. And then like when we start doing, like, I lag out. But anyway, like, I wouldn't be shocked if it came out that he's like hurt in some way, or like he has to get surgery or something. Like Andrew said that like it's his back, like, and I don't know where he like got that information from. Maybe I should pry into that a little bit more, but Andrew's been saying since like probably before the playoffs that Diggs has a back injury.
I mean, that would make sense because it's been 8 weeks without him like having a significant game. Yeah. I mean, three catches, 21 yards is not very Stephon Diggs-esque. Let's see. I'm pulling up some of his stats. I mean, he had a decent game against the Dolphins, like 7 for 87, but my guy hasn't scored since November 26th against the Eagles.
I could score against the Eagles defense.
Yeah, and that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you were an elite scout team running back, but nevertheless, definitely something wrong with him. So that doesn't surprise me to hear from Andrew that there is a potential back injury there. I do have Mecole Hardman's stats because I wanted to talk about that. He sucks. He's one bad. Carry, -1 yard, 2 fumbles, 1 catch, 2 yards.
He's bad, dude. I hate him.
He was out there doing like Bobby Portis numbers, or no, Tony Snell numbers. He was out there doing cardio basically.
He's not good.
He's not good. I don't understand these coaches trying to trick teams into being out of position when it comes to like critical spots on the field. Like when you get to the red zone, you get the ball in your playmaker's hands.
You don't even need to just hand
not a playmaker.
Just hand it to Pacheco,
exactly.
We'll touch on this when we preview these games, like going into the weekend. But Pacheco's running down their throats, and then when you get to the goal line, where you can probably depend on Pacheco to literally break his neck to get into the end zone, like let him do that. And like if it doesn't work on third down, try something. But like it was 1st and goal. And you run a trick play, you get too cute. That's always been a problem that like I've not liked the Chiefs about, is like when they get into the red zone, they start doing like all this goofy shit. It's like, why is Travis Kelce lined up at quarterback when you have the best quarterback in the NFL? Makes no sense.
Bro, Isaiah Pacheco would snap his femur to get into the end zone.
Yeah, serious. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Give him the rock. Give him the rock. And it's not like the Chiefs have a bad O-line or anything like that where they have to get tricky and have to try and outsmart the Bills. Like, give it to your running back who is insane mentally and will do literally anything to score a touchdown. So it just doesn't make sense to me when teams do shit like that. It's really annoying. But if you're the Bills, like, you're obviously happy that happened because they gave the ball to like the worst player on both sides of the football at the time. Insane. And it benefited for them, but I mean, it's just
Last thing on this game. Last thing on this game. Everybody from now on needs to stop crowning Josh Allen until he wins a big game. That's a fair statement. He's just.
What do you mean crowning?
Bro, and this is, and don't act like this isn't true. Everybody, Tony Romo was disgustingly praising Josh Allen throughout the entire broadcast. Like, it was gross.
I watched the game on mute because I can't stand Tony Romo.
So, and I'm saying that, like, and what I mean by that is the media, everybody that talks about it, everybody on the Ringer staff, you listen to the Ringer, a lot of the Ringer podcasts, everybody absolutely 1,000,000% crowns Josh Allen as like that guy. And listen, is he extremely good? Absolutely. But Josh Allen, when it comes down to it, has never gotten the job done. And I think that there's been times that you can directly point to the reasoning of why they lose is because of him. And it's a team game. And
do you think it was on him for this game? Because I thought he probably played well enough to win, but I just don't think the defense. He has to play better. I get it.
He had the ball. He had the ball to win the game.
I get it.
And he had the ball to win the game, and instead of making the winning play, he tried to play hero ball, which is a direct reflection of him, and it's the reason why they lost. So instead of kicking a shorter field goal, instead of getting another opportunity to probably go be in the even closer to the red zone and score, they put their kicker in a position to kick a deep field goal in the wind, and he missed it. So yeah, I do kind of blame Josh Allen for that, because at the end of the game, the ball was in his hands to win the football game, and he didn't make the plays to win it.
So I agree with you there. I think if you are a top quarterback, you have to step up. I don't think it's fair to say he lost them the football game, though. He didn't win it for him, but I don't think he lost it for him. I think the kicker needs to make that kick. But I also think that if you're Josh Allen, having one touchdown in an AFC divisional game probably isn't enough, per se, to get it done. But that defense had one stop all game.
That's fine. That's fine that the defense had one stop the entire game. And that sucks. And that's not ideal. But Josh Allen had the ball in his hands to win the football game with like under 2 minutes left, and he didn't make the plays to win the football game. So like, yeah, I kind of do put that on Josh Allen. His defense didn't come up and make the stops, but at the end of the game, when the ball was in his hands to go down and win the game, there was a chance to tie it, and there was also a chance to win it, and they came out with neither of those. And I think that has to do with him not making, even if they didn't get the first down on that play, even getting 5 yards closer at that point in the game matters greatly. And they just didn't make that happen for their kicker and put their kicker in a bad spot. I think that Josh Allen, listen, I love Josh Allen. I just think that at a point, like the hype on him is immense. And at some point you need to deliver. And it seems like that he's not able to do that. The Bills have been at the top of the Super Bowl, like preseason rankings every single year on the sports books and all, and they cannot get it done. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about next. The Bills lose to the Chiefs every single year in the playoffs. It feels like that they're at a point where they should probably rebuild this roster a little bit.
I think they need to get another weapon on offense, and I think they have to almost completely revamp that defense. It's just too old. And if you're going to go out there, they're in a terrible spot with Von Miller because that guy is getting paid $15 million a year to have 0 sacks. So that really hurts. I mean, they have some good guys in the secondary. I think Poyer's still solid, but
he's like 33.
He's old. Yeah. I was going to say they're good, but they're just old.
But that's what I'm
I don't
asking you.
know.
Like, do you think that if you're the Bills, your main goal every single year is to win the Super Bowl? The last what 2 seasons? Yeah, it's been the last 3 seasons. You lose to the Chiefs in the championship game or in a divisional round, and you can't get over the hump. It feels like this roster is just flat not built to beat the Chiefs, and that's the team that you need to beat.
I think that I don't think it's just that simple. Like, I agree. I think they do need to make moves and revamp this roster. But I think Ryan Russillo said it probably the best. Like, Mahomes is better than Josh Allen, and there's no debating that. I think everybody would agree with that. Um, Andy Reid is a better head coach than Sean McDermott. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that there. But it's like getting to the point where he said this. It's getting to the point where Mahomes is like reaching that Brady-esque level of just making it to the Super Bowl every single year. And it feels like the years that they don't make it are almost like weird fluke years. And I think that that's because Mahomes is just so good. Like, in order to beat them,
Man, I
it feels like
disagree
you
with
have
that
to have
so
like
hard.
it feels like you have to have like a stacked team because Mahomes and we sat here all year and shit on the Chiefs
What
because
about
we
when?
didn't. Hold on, hold
Go
on.
ahead. Go
We sat
ahead.
here all year and didn't think that the Chiefs were good enough, and here they are playing in an AFC Championship game again. And who is it? Patrick Mahomes. The defense has been solid. Don't get me wrong, but like
The
this guy
best.
just finds a way to get
The
it done
defense has been
every
the
time.
best. The
Yeah,
defense
but
has been the
you
best.
still like Mahomes is still getting it done. They scored every time they had the ball besides one and taking
Okay.
a knee. Like,
Okay, and that's
what are you
fair to say.
supposed to do?
But you're sitting here saying like you need to go out and have this, that, and the third happen to be able to beat Mahomes. Well, the Bengals went out and beat Mahomes at Arrowhead when nobody thought the Bengals had a snowball's chance in hell, and smoked them on the road at Arrowhead and went to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, I mean Brady's lost too, but like
I know that, but I'm just sitting here
it's
saying like where we all sit
I
here
don't
and
even
say
think we'll see the Bengals do that again, to be honest
we're
with you.
but
Who
we're
knows if
sitting
Joe
here
Burrow is going
saying
to stay healthy?
we both think that the Chiefs can get got this year. And then Josh Allen had the ball to win the game and didn't come through. So that's why I'm saying like all of that's great. Like I completely agree with you. I think Mahomes is amazing. He every single year he's been a starter, he's been the AFC Championship. That tells you something. But when you literally have an opportunity to win the game and put the Chiefs away, you have to go and do it. And you had open receivers. You had an opportunity to tie up the game and you made it harder for everybody. So I that's going back to the original point. Like, I just think flat like that is on Josh Allen. I know that like Russillo literally loves Josh Allen, and I know that, but like so it feels like nobody ever wants to be critical of Josh Allen because he's like fun to watch. And like I
I
agree
mean,
with that, but like he lost them that football game this past weekend. Would have been great for Tyler Bass to kick the game-winning field goal. Absolutely. Would have been great if Stephon Diggs caught a bomb in the third quarter for sure, but that's not what happened. But ultimately, when it came down to it, Josh Allen didn't get the job done.
yeah, but I also think we need to realize that moments like that, there's very
At
I
home.
think there's one person that gets it done in the NFL right now in a spot like that, and it's Mahomes. I think we might need to just lower expectations with teams that are playing the Chiefs. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else that gets it done in that situation besides Patrick Mahomes because he's done it before.
I'm sure, and I don't have all of like the numbers in front of me, obviously, but I'm sure that there are plenty of quarterbacks that have led game-winning drives in the NFL, and
Not against the
not just
Chiefs in the
Patrick
playoffs.
Mahomes. And
Is my
like I said,
point.
like I said, I don't have all of the numbers in front of me, so I can't give you an accurate answer. But that's completely beside the point. I just want everybody to stop crowning Josh Allen. That's it.
Well, I don't think you're going to get your wish because I still think Josh Allen is a damn good
Who do
quarterback.
you
But
think's better, Lamar or Josh Allen?
I think this year Lamar.
Who do you think has had a better career so far, Josh Allen or Lamar?
Lamar.
Then why doesn't Lamar get the
Lamar's
love
going to
that
have
Josh
two.
Allen get?
I don't know. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's phenomenal. I think it's because I don't know. It's a good question.
Listen, we'll get to it. We'll get into it later, and we'll get into these other games. But it's exactly why Lamar Jackson is going to go up on the scale this year when he wins his first Super Bowl, brings home another MVP, and he's amazing. So, but anyway, we can go all day about this, and I love getting fired up. I just wanted to get it going a little bit because it's been like a full week. But next game, Niners, Green Bay Packers. It feels like the Niners just flat survived this game. And man, it's so bizarre about like the Purdy and inclement weather where he like can't function. Like it's almost like his mind stops working. And I guess like when you're watching it on TV, you don't really understand how bad it's pouring in some games for some reason. And I guess the weather was way worse and it was getting let off on TV. But I guess some things that like I want to hear you talk about are obviously like Purdy versus the inclement weather, and then the Debo effect on this team where whenever Debo's fully healthy, he's so important and so good and such a game changer. But Debo seems to kind of be like a little soft. And whenever he gets hurt, even like if he's like slightly dinged up, he just like doesn't want to play. And I think that's an interesting like viewpoint on that. And he's so important for that team when he's on the field, and when he's off of it, it almost looks like they're dysfunction. So what do you think about that game?
Yeah, I'll start off with the Brock Purdy. The guy just has small hands, can't hold a whopper, can't hold an NFL football is what it seems like
Yeah.
in the NFL. He had the glove on, had the glove off, had the glove on, had the glove off. Like, I understand that it's probably not easy to play quarterback in the NFL, let alone in the rain. But people were crowning Brock Purdy this whole year, and for him to play like that, like I agree with you, they squeaked out, they barely made it. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that moving forward, as far as the rain goes. But it's just crazy how much different he is. It's like he almost forgets how to play quarterback, and
Yeah.
I know that the rain can play a factor in catching and throwing the football, but like it shouldn't have that big of a mental effect on you to the point where you're just not making your reads properly as a quarterback and you're just like throwing bad passes to the point where it looks like you're not even seeing defenders on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that part was strange. But the Debo piece of this, it's crazy how different this offense looks when Debo's not on the field. And for
Insane.
somebody that loves to be rah, rah, I'm so tough, I'll wear my Black Forces cleats, I'm here to stand on business, all that. Where were you, dude? I get you might have got a little banged up, but like your team, unless you run the risk of like fully separating your shoulder and dying, like you should be out there playing.
I like completely like the dying thing obviously is like extreme, but like all jokes,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
like all literally like all jokes aside, I think probably if you're a high end football player in a football game, we just talked about how we think Diggs has like a bad back injury. Like if you're like a high end playmaker backslash football player, like you're playing through a pretty significant injury, even if that means like you're running a risk of like getting severely injured because of the point of the season that you're at. Like
Yeah.
everybody's probably banged up at this point. There's probably a lot of guys playing with major injuries. And it seems like for him to like be a go for next week, and like I feel like he probably should have played that game.
Yeah, I saw that the latest report that I saw, which was probably like Monday, Tuesday,
But he was 50
was he's
50.
50. Yeah, 50-50. I haven't seen anything new, but I mean, it's could be your last game of the season, and your team clearly, you know how big of a role you play on your team. You know your offense looks so much different, which that's a thing that's wild to me. I understand like you missing a guy, and it might have some type of effect, but they have so many weapons on that team that it's just crazy how much different they look without Debo. And
But it
obviously he's a
does
great
look different
player.
without Debo. Like, it
It
looks
is. It's crazy.
when you
I
start,
don't
like,
understand how it looks
when you
that
take
different with
when
all
you
those
take
guys.
Debo off the field, it's like, oh, Jawan Jennings, and it's like, oh, and, like, Ronnie Bell. Like, you know what I it's just
Yeah.
like who they have at, like, backup, it just seems, like, really, really underwhelming, and it's like, oh, like, once Debo's off the field, like, they're kinda thin at all these positions.
When they ran that, like the play was like a handoff, but it was to Jawan Jennings,
Yeah,
and it should have been Debo,
yeah,
and Jawan Jennings lost like 3 yards.
did you
I
see
was
what
like, "This is
Shanahan
funny."
said?
I forget what he said. I think I
He was
did though.
he said that he, like, accidentally said a word that meant a handoff to Debo, and he was like and then when he said it, he was like, "Oh shit, Debo's not in there," and then it was, like, too late.
Too late, yeah. No, I didn't see that actually, so that's hysterical.
Yeah.
There should never be a play drawn up to hand the football off to Jawan
All
Jennings.
jokes aside, though, he actually came up pretty big in this game for them on
He
3rd
did.
down multiple times when it was like it was almost like because it was like, okay, like, yeah, I kinda wanna see the Packers knock this team off, and then, like, every single 3rd down, like,
They're
Jawan
throwing
Jennings
jump
was
balls across the middle of the field to him, and he's fucking going up and snagging them.
and then you're like, why is he making these plays? Like, this is like if you were like a Green Bay money line better, I would have been like pulling my hair out watching this game. It would have been like, why is he making every single one of these catches? Like,
It was crazy. It was insane. I mean, I I don't even know what to say because this was a game that the Packers should have won, and they I mean, Jordan Love just went straight Brett Favre on us at the end of
yeah,
that
that's
game.
what I kind of wanted to say next. Like, Packers, obviously, like it's an easy statement to say, but their future's bright. Love and LaFleur connections, like super special. And then they moved on from Joe Barry today, which kind of seemed to be a weak point for them. And they kind of addressed it, even though the defense played well towards the end of the season. They kind of knew that Joe Barry wasn't the guy to take them to the next level. What do you think about the Packers?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things to be happy about if you're the Packers. I don't even think the Packers fans had expectations of them making it this far this season, anyways. And to be like a
Yeah,
few plays away from playing in the NFC Championship, like obviously that's heartbreaking, and you want to see your quarterback make a smarter play at the very end of the game. But like you're playing with house money at that point, so
seriously. It
you're
was a heat
you're
check throw. Like
it was
Jordan Love was feeling himself. What did he have? 10 touchdowns, one interception for like
yeah.
a while. Like
He was bound to make a
he was
play like
bound to make
that.
a bad play. Like it was a heat check throw and it was a bad throw. And I'm sure that he's going to learn a lot from that.
Yeah, that's just part of the growing pains of being a starting quarterback in the NFL, like your first year. So I'm sure he'll probably learn from it. If not, then that's an obvious reason for concern. But they've got a lot of young guys on that team. They got 2 good running backs, another 100-yard game for Aaron Jones. They've got a young
He
tight
looks
end
good.
who's promising. So I think if you're on the
Hey, Tucker
offensive side of the
Craft.
football, yeah, Tucker Craft mac and cheese.
Sorry.
I think you're really happy as far as as the season goes. Um, the I don't think the defense is bad. Like I think them getting rid of Joe Barry is a good step. Like I think they have some decent players. They probably need to get some more in the secondary, but like along that D line and linebackers, like I like some of those guys, but it was probably time for Joe Barry to be gone, and they made that decision. So, I mean, good for the Packers. They had a good year, and they have a lot to look forward to going into next season.
I completely
This one
agree with
stings
you.
though. Don't get me wrong. Like if I'm a Packers fan, I'm still sick about this game and probably will be for a little while because it really felt like a game that they could have won, and for it to end on a crossbody throw 25 yards down the field to an interception sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine. For sure. Next game, Detroit Who'd they play?
Bucks.
Detroit Buccaneers. Sorry, I just blacked out for a second. Um,
Too much cacti.
I think probably like something. First off, shout out to the Lions. Good for them. Great to see them go on a run. They're a fun team. I just think that it's like crazy that like they kind of don't get like any credit for how great their skill position players are. Like Sam Laporta is like an absolute home run pick.
He might be the best tight end in the NFL.
Jahmyr Gibbs is a dog. David Montgomery, even though he didn't have a good game this past week, he's a dog. Amara St. Brown's an animal. And then they have like these supplemental wide receivers, like with like Josh Reynolds. I mean, Jamison Williams was a first round pick, but he hasn't really played up to that, but he's been kind of getting more comfortable in games. Like this, I mean, this team has a lot of fucking weapons on it, is kind of what I'm getting at. And then we kind of everybody talks so much about how the Niners have so much weapons. Like, I think that there's going to be a point in time where you kind of like start to look at this Lions team and like be like, they probably have one of the best skill position groups in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think that they have a lot of guys that honestly you have to that put a lot of stress on a defense if you're a defensive coordinator. And I think Jared Goff has done a fantastic job there. He doesn't need to go out there every week and throw for 400 yards because their run game's been
like,
solid. And
Carp adding us in the thing, and like Jared Goff's playing very well, but like if you don't think Brock Purdy's elite, don't sit here and be like Jared Goff's elite. They're in very, I think that they're in like pretty comparable situations. But go ahead with what you with.
I don't think Jared Goff is elite by any means, because I don't think Purdy's elite either. But like I think that Jared Goff going there has just been like a match pretty much made in heaven. I mean, they've been really good with him this year, and I think the Lions on offense at least have been really fun to watch. Did you see the Cam Newton podcast clip about like they sent Jared Goff to literally die, rot his career away in Detroit?
Yeah.
Like with that Wolves quote, it was like what they threw him to the Wolves and he came out leading the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of badass. But
yeah, and it's good, and it is. I mean, that's a really great way to put it, because Detroit was in such a bad place, but like you can, sorry, I interrupted you. You can go on with your point, but I just wanted to touch on Dan Campbell for a second. Like we said this like probably like a full month ago, where it's like coaching matters so much. Like that guy is probably going to be like a top 4 or 5 most important head coach in the entire league, just because of how great he is at building culture and coaching a football team and having every single person in the locker room bought in no matter what. Like that is an ability in itself, and he's probably top tier at that, like by far.
Oh, he's definitely one of the best, like get your team to buy in guys in the NFL. Probably the best, honestly, because even the years like that this is his third year as head coach.
I think this is his third or his second. Last year was his first. They just missed the playoffs by one game when they beat the Packers to send off Rodgers. And then this past year, maybe it's 3. Maybe the first year was a bad year. I can't remember.
I think that this is his third year. Detroit Lions coach since 2021. So they did have that bad first year, but even then, you could still really feel things starting to turn and shift in Detroit. Like,
didn't they win one game?
They won one game, but like so many games came down to the wire, and then to follow it up with what, like they went 500 last year, or right under 500.
Yeah, like 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah, and then for this year to go to the NFC Championship, like the progress that he's made being the head coach of this team has been just honestly a lot of fun to see. I personally love watching Dan Campbell. If I was still playing football, that's a guy that I would want to play for. Like all of those guys in that locker room would run through a brick wall for him. And that's all that you can ask for if you're a head coach, as far as effort goes and guys being committed to one another and being committed to trusting the process and trusting the staff. Like, it's been great. And there was a lot of scrutiny, I'm pretty sure, around Dan Campbell when they announced him as
when he
like the
got
head
hired.
coach. Yeah. So he's certainly proved a lot of people wrong. And it's been great to see. So I hope the Lions pull it off this week. I can't stand the Niners, and Dan Campbell's an absolute menace. So I would love to see him in a Super Bowl. But yeah, the Lions are scary on offense for sure. Defense is kind of suspect.
One last thing I want to say about Dan Campbell too is, like, for somebody who's like so emotional, like there's so many clips of him like crying in front of the guys and like all this stuff. Like, when something big is happening on the sidelines, or they get punched in the mouth, or like momentum shift happens in the game, whenever they shift that camera over to the sideline, that guy is cool as a cucumber, dialed in, ready to go. And he knows that, like, that it's football. Like, I remember he came out, they did the halftime speech, and they were like, "What did you tell your guys going into halftime?" He's like, "Well, like, yeah," like, he's the only guy in the league that like gives like a real speech. I mean, a real interview at the halftime. He's like, "Well, like, yeah, like we knew that they weren't going to come in here and lay down, and like that's football, and like that's what we have to do, and like we're going to make the proper adjustments. Like, this is a tough football team. They're here for a reason." Like, he just like embodies like a real leader. I love listening to him. I love watching him. And like every time he's on camera or something like that, it's good content. But I just like looked, even the kind of the first time I like it really popped up to me and like I noticed it was when like the debacle happened in Dallas, when the entire team could have bitched and moaned for a week, kind of like the Chiefs did, and no one did. Like, I don't know what Dan said to those guys when they got back in the locker room after that game. He's like, don't give shit to the media about what just happened out there. We're going to come back and beat them, so it doesn't matter. So, like, the way that he just like has all of those guys kind of like in order and locked in, like, I think that like says a lot, and shout out to them. And one last thing too is their home field advantage is a very big deal. Like, that the two games played in Detroit very much mattered that those games were played in Detroit, because those home fans were fired up.
Dude, those fans, like, I don't know if the Lions fan base gets enough credit, because they've had such a bad team for so long that like we never really got to see them in like full capacity, right? So I mean, them being able to make it this far and finally have like a good team to rally around, like, I think we get to see just how much these fans care about the Detroit Lions, and those two games were bumping. I mean, it definitely made a difference, I think. So good for them. I mean, it sucks that they have to go out to San Fran where they won't have that type of advantage, but it's definitely nice to see that that they were able to take advantage of those two games at home in front of all those fans.
Definitely. And shout out Baker and the Bucks for making it this far.
As far as that game goes, though, I do want to say that I'm kind of concerned about the Lions' pass defense.
Well, you just figured that out?
No, like even more so. Well, like, they've given up like 450 yards the last like 4 games in a row.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, their defense isn't great, like, at all.
No, they're gonna have to die. No, they're not.
Ravens Texans. So there's 3 major takeaways that I had from this game that aren't just the Ravens have an elite defense, Lamar's elite, and the Ravens are a really good football team. What really stood out to me was, and we just talked about it, they had very much home field advantage at the bank. The Texans had a million penalties, a million false start penalties, a million errors on their end, just strictly from the crowd. Number 2, the Texans, and I said this when we were there, when we were watching the game, I watched CJ Stroud during warmups. It looked like he wanted no part of playing in the cold. And I was like, he doesn't want to play in the cold. And Nick was like, well, he played at Ohio State and it's pretty cold there. And I'm like, you stopped playing college football in October, damn near. Like, and You
And
don't play
if you
this.
do play in a bowl game, you're in a dome. Like
Yeah,
those games that
or in
Ohio State
Cali.
plays in are in a dome. Yeah.
We're in California. So you're not playing in like inclement weather. So this was probably CJ Stroud's first time ever playing deep into the winter, like in Baltimore. It was really cold. It was really windy, and they're a dome team in Texas. So that stood out to me. And then the very last thing that stood out to me was, if there's ever a time when you can fade an offensive coordinator who's taking on head coaching interviews throughout the week, I think you got to fade them. Bobby Slowick took 2 interviews last week with the Panthers and the Titans during game week to prep for this game. And I feel like nobody talked about that. Like, when you're going and prepping for one of 32 jobs in America, like to
Yeah.
coach a $1 billion organization and to be the head of it, like, there's a lot of prep that goes into that. Like, fuck, me and you just got done interviewing places, and we apply places, and you know how much prep goes into it, and we're making fucking 4% of what they're gonna make, and like, we put a ton of
Yeah.
time into it. So I couldn't imagine how much time, effort, and energy gets spent when you're interviewing for a head coaching position, and then you go out there and you see it this weekend. The offense looks completely different. Obviously, it's against the Ravens defense, but regardless, they didn't even score. They technically shouldn't even have scored a point, because that 3 that they got was off of a big DPI, and that's when they scored the 3. And then they had the punt return for a touchdown. But other than that, that offense looked extremely stagnant, which other than the entire year when it's been like pretty prolific.
Yeah, I mean, I think the weather definitely played a role in that. The home the home crowd advantage also doesn't make it any easier when you're constantly behind the sticks. You can't tell how loud it is in these stadiums sometimes, but it almost felt like there was a false start penalty every other play,
Yeah, it was
or
bad.
like a delay a game or something. It was crazy. I mean, that's not something that I really expected to see a ton of in this game as far as like false starts go, but it it was crazy. That it played a huge role clearly. Um I also didn't realize that Slowick interviewed during that week. So, cuz I thought there was a rule that you weren't supposed to or allowed to, but nevertheless, like, as I understand that you have to care about your future if you're an OC like him and you have an opportunity to step into a head coaching spot. I understand that you want to come prepared, but like, you're still playing in arguably the biggest game of your career, and those guys on the team right now need you to come prepared. Now, I don't know I I don't know if the Texans were going to win this game anyways, but you owe it to those guys in the locker room
You
to
put up 0 on
be
offense.
dialed in 110%, right? Like,
Yeah.
you gotta care a little bit more than that. And I'm not saying he might not like, who knows, but that should be the most important thing you're worried about right now. There has to be some type of change to that, and we've said it before. Like,
With college, yeah.
we with college, we need these coaches to be focused in on the task at hand, and that was the Baltimore Ravens defense. And out of all the defenses in the NFL that you come underprepared for, the Ravens is probably the last one on the list that you want to come, or the first one on the list that you don't want to be underprepared for. So
Yeah.
it clearly showed, not scoring a touchdown is
Bad.
is
A
is
bad look.
really bad, especially from an offense that looked really good for 3/4 of the season, right? But when you show up to show up to a Ravens
And you
game and you're
didn't.
not prepared, like, they're gonna smack you in the fucking mouth.
Yeah, and you just said, you were like, I didn't even know that was allowed. He interviewed for the Titans on Tuesday, and then he interviewed for the Panthers on Thursday. So, like, what in the world? Like, imagine going into a playoff game and you're like, fuck, I have to interview for the Panthers head job and I have to interview for the Titans head job in the same exact week.
I understand, like, if you're the Panthers and the Titans, but there has to be um like an unwritten rule that if the guy you're interviewing is still playing, like, give him until they lose. Like,
Why?
give the guy a. I don't understand.
Why can't we just wait? Like, okay, like let's just put it this way. Let's just wait until after this weekend. Right? Like, because the 2 Super Bowl teams, okay, whatever. If you want to interview the 2 Super Bowl head coaches or something like that, like I don't know. Because their coordinators are probably going to be getting plucked if they're in the Super Bowl. It's a rough situation. I feel like probably there's got to be some sort of happy medium where decisions aren't made, but you're allowed to interview, and like after a certain point, interviews close. But I don't know the correct way to handle it, but I think that it's a pretty steep task. And I got this information from Warren Sharp because he actually helps uh coordinators and coaches and all these people prep for head coaching jobs. He's like a part of a group that helps them prep. And he was pretty much like bitching about it as well, like being like, well, that's it. He was like, do you have any idea how much time and effort we put into prepping for these interviews? Like, he was like, there's no way that you can go and prepare a proper game plan when you have to when you have to interview for one of these coaching jobs. So like you just said, you didn't even know that was a thing. Like that next year during the playoffs, when we're betting, whatever team's coordinator is hot and doing that shit, we're fading them, because I took the Ravens big and they showed up big.
Yeah, I think there needs to be like I said, like in golf, there's like golf etiquette where you don't say anything when somebody steps on the tee box and starts their swing. There needs to be like football coaching interviewing etiquette where you can't interview an OC or a coach until they're done with the season. So that's something that I would certainly love to see changed, because if I'm a player and like if I'm a player, I obviously want the best for this team and for the coach. Like, as much as you would hate to see somebody leave, you want the best for them, right? So I'm sure all those guys in that locker room are like, yeah, great. Like, we hope you get it. But at the same time, like, we're still playing. You need to be putting in that effort with us. And I can't even imagine there's certainly not enough hours in a day for you to prepare to interview for a head coach, because you have to do all your research on all the players on the Titans. You have to do all your research on the players on the Panthers. And then you have to put up different types of like schemes and methods and how you're going to run this team and how you're going to run this team. And to do that within the same week and also prep for the best defense in the NFL is like damn near impossible. So
yeah, I'm with you. It's fucked up. And obviously we can sit here and like be like, well, the Ravens are really good and the run game is amazing and they rush for almost 300 yards and all this shit, and Lamar's great and the defense is elite. But I feel like that nobody talked about like those kind of key takeaways from the entire weekend. And when you look back at the game and how it played out, like, kind of makes sense, honestly.
Yeah, I do want to say that the Ravens offense and I forget who their OC is, guy from Georgia. Wait for it.
That's Todd Monken.
Yeah, Todd Monken. I think the job that Todd Monken has done as the offensive coordinator of the Ravens is incredible. The fact that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson has developed even more, or I don't even know, like Lamar might have had this inside of him this whole time, but just the style of offense that they played maybe didn't allow for it and the type of players that they had previous. But the fact that Todd Monken has really dialed in this offense from a passing perspective is just so scary if you're a defense, because we all see Lamar run and he's probably the most elite running quarterback we've ever seen. But the thing is, can he beat you consistently throwing the football? And I think this year was like a perfect example of that. Especially them going into this game against the Chiefs. Like, that's a tall task to worry about Lamar running for 130 yards on you and then also maybe even throwing for 230. Like, good luck stopping that. So I want to give Todd Monken his flowers because he's done a phenomenal job, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll get into the Ravens and Chiefs game a little bit more when we preview it last, but I think that that's a good point to make when we're reviewing this last game. Um do you have anything else on the divisional round weekend that you want to touch on, or are you good?
Um,
Or anything
I just
else for that matter?
we said this last week pretty much about the Texans. Like any this game is just like getting here is just like icing on the cake for them. They're set, I would say, moving forward. They have a great head coach. They have a great quarterback. Like I think they're going to be fine. They're in like the same situation as the Packers, right? Like they got their guy, and nobody realistically expect them to make it this far. So, just hats off to them.
Definitely, I agree. And I mean, another team where we can say like future's bright, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, they had the fucking offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year, so good for them. Um, all right, you good?
Yep.
All right, so obviously championship round weekend officially underway. 3 games left in the NFL season. Feels good. Um, First game I want to talk about because I think it's kind of, I don't want to downplay it, but the least interesting game on the board in my opinion. 49ers versus the Lions. I know that do you have the line and the over under on that? My bad.
Let me. No, you're good. I'll pull it up. I think it opened at
7.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6.5. What the freak? Okay, this is taking way too long. Okay, I love this. All right, yeah, we're at San Fran's -7, over unders 50.5.
Yeah, I guess probably like my first initial thought on this game was like the Niners' chance to lose was like last week. Like
Yeah.
if there was any time on the day to beat the Niners, it was last week. Um and it didn't get done. I'm gonna go out on a limb and probably say that Debo is gonna play. I think that that game was a major wake up call. And as much as I would absolutely love to see the Lions play in the Super Bowl, I think that this is potentially a down to earth moment for the Lions team. And I think that they could probably score a little on this team, but ultimately, I think the Niners are really going to show up to play. I think that if there was a time to knock them off, it was last week, and the Lions are kind of catching them at a shitty time.
I agree with you from that perspective. I think I'm looking at this Debo injury update right now, and as of 5 hours ago, he didn't practice today, but it says his shoulder's feeling better. So I do think he ends up playing as well. But I don't think the weather's going to be an issue. I don't think that Brock Purdy's really going to have any issues throwing the football from that perspective. If the Lions' best hope is that Aiden Hutchinson has like a
Career
Jesus
day.
like moment and
Yeah.
like is just pressuring him nonstop the entire day. Otherwise, I think that this game's going to be high scoring. I think the Niners are going to score points, being able to move the football up and down the field, throwing it at least. Like I said before, I don't think the Lions' pass defense is very good. They're all right with the run, but they are just not great covering the pass. And then as far as the Lions go, I think the Lions are really going to be able to run the football. I don't think they end up winning, but truly there is a scenario where if the Niners end up getting behind and the Lions can just run the clock into the ground, that would not surprise me. I don't think that the Niners are very good at stopping the football, and they have to take into account 2 guys that are both lethal when it comes to running in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So I think that's something to watch for. But I think the Lions miracle, not even miracle run, but I just think their run comes to an end this week. I just think the Niners are probably too good as a whole team.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's just they're going to be so locked for this game, bro. They know that they got away with one last week. I mean, that team's played in a ton of big games. Those players, a lot of those players have played in the Super Bowl. Like they know they got away with one. This isn't a young dumb team, so yeah. Unfortunately, I do like the Niners -7 in this spot.
Although, if there was ever like a moment where Dan Campbell gets his, I wouldn't even like call it revenge, but like has his career moment, it would be this game.
Dude, I would that would be like literally like if anything would happen this weekend, if the Lions somehow make it to the Super Bowl, that would be like dumb electric.
It would be so sick.
Yeah.
And I would love that, but I just don't know if it's going to happen or not. I think, like I said before, I think Debo plays. If Debo doesn't play, I think you have to bet on the Lions to win.
I respect that.
Just
He's gonna
because
play though. Like
he is, but until it's announced, I'm going to say the Lions have a great chance of winning. I think if he doesn't play, just because of how out of sync that offense looks, which is crazy. But if he does play, they win. If he doesn't play, I think the Lions win.
my heart wants to pick the Lions, but also
So
like
badly.
you have to kind of obviously the weather, but also have to kind of take into account like the game plan going into that game was for Debo to be an X factor against the Packers, and to lose him like right away obviously throws a massive monkey wrench into like everything that you're doing as a play caller. Example, fucking Greg Jennings or whatever his name is getting not Greg
Jawan.
Jennings, Jawan Johnson,
Greg Jennings.
Jawan Jennings getting a handoff just strictly because of like how the game plan was set up. So I think that like Debo is going to play, but even if Debo wasn't playing, like I think that as a coaching staff and as a team, they would be like a little bit more prepared for it. But that's just like what I think, I guess.
All right, let's see here. I have. I've got some numbers here.
Let's hear it.
After holding 5 consecutive opponents to fewer than 20 points between weeks 10 to 14, Niners have given up 21 plus points in the last 4 of 5 outings. So that definitely plays into the over. Detroit's defense has been stingy against the run, ranking top 3 in both yards per carry, 3.7, and yards per contest, 88.8. So that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about how I think that Lions defense, run defense is solid.
It definitely is.
This article didn't have nearly as many numbers as I thought, so that's all I got for you for right
now. Nice. All right. Next game on the slate, probably like my favorite game of the year. Is the Ravens versus the Chiefs at Baltimore. Do you have the line? I think it's 3 probably.
Right now, the Ravens are 3.5 point favorite with the over under being 44.5.
Nice. Yeah, I think that like this is immediately like how I felt about this game when the Bills Chiefs game ended and I watched the Ravens play. Was everybody, and I know that the Ravens are more heavily bet on currently. I think probably when it gets closer to game time, the money will kind of be like equal on both sides. I think that everybody's going to kind of remember what happened last week when even Patrick Mahomes didn't have like an amazing game, but the Chiefs offense kind of finally like came into form, but it was against the Bills defense who had nobody on it. I don't think that the Chiefs have played a defense like this the entire season. And I think that that's going to like really come back to be a key factor in this situation. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, you don't have to ask Lamar to throw the ball around the yard. I think he can, but bro, I think that the Ravens defense and then their ability to absolutely run down your throat with Lamar, with Gus Edwards, with Justice Hill, and then Dalvin Cook comes in at the end out of nowhere and looks really good. I just don't think the Chiefs are going to have an answer to stop a fresh running back for all 4 quarters. And I think that the Ravens are going to absolutely control the ball. And I think that they're going to show up on defense, obviously.
Yeah, I think this Ravens team is probably even more complete than the Niners on both sides of the football. And on top of that, I saw today that they get Mark Andrews back. So that's just another thing that you have to worry about if you're the Chiefs defensive coordinator. I mean, Isaiah Likely's been playing really well. I think him and Lamar have really done a good job of building that relationship and building that connection from a quarterback receiver, even though he's a tight end standpoint. You know what you're going to get out of Zay Flowers, and to have to also worry now about Mark Andrews on top of that stable of running backs and Lamar Jackson being able to take off at any moment, like that's asking a lot to worry about. Like you have to obviously pick and choose your battles there because there's no way that you're going to be able to stop all of that. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see the route that the Chiefs defense takes as far as what are they going to give up and what are they really going to try and stop? Something that we didn't talk about when we were talking about the Ravens game was Dalvin Cook. And I think there's still some juice left there with Dalvin Cook. Obviously, he's not what he was, I don't think. But to be able to put Dalvin Cook in the game midway through the fourth quarter and
Yeah.
have fresh legs from a guy that still has a little bit left in the still has some more than a little bit, I would say, left in the tank. Like, good luck. Like Dalvin Cook was a top 5 running back last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
like to be
crazy.
able
It's
to you could
crazy.
just have him at running back 3 on your team and put him in and like you're like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
Like just a
I'm with
game
you.
of Lamar running all over you, and then you have Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, like you said, and then oh wait, fourth quarter rolls around. Now we have to deal with Dalvin Cook. Like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah, I obviously think the Chiefs defense is extremely good, but the way that I think that the Ravens kind of win this game is long, sustained drives, tiring out this defense, keeping them on the field for long stretches of the game throughout the entire game, and then having Mahomes sit on the sideline as little as possible. And I think that this team is completely built to do exactly that.
Dude, I think this Raven I agree with you completely from an offensive standpoint. I think this Ravens defense is just so nasty.
Yeah.
Like they don't have like a guy on the D line per se that's like a Bosa or like a Miles Garrett, but they just have like consistent dogs across the line and they have some depth. And then those linebackers in and Patrick Roquan Smith
Queen.
and Patrick Queen are just absolutely terrifying. Like
Yeah, they're
Patrick
so
Queen will hit you in the mouth and then spit on you.
Yeah, they're physical and something that you kind of see the Ravens do throughout the course of the game is they're so versatile where they'll line up in the A gaps acting like they're going to blitz but still be able to get back to like their coverage and be in their zones and make plays in the passing game. Yeah, I mean this team is so versatile, long, young, athletic and very well coached on top of it on both sides of the ball and yeah, I think that I do. I just think that I think that me personally, I'm going to take an alt line of the Ravens winning by 10.
Yeah, I think the Ravens cover what is it, 3.5? I think
Yeah.
the Ravens cover 3.5. I just don't know what you do from a defensive perspective if you're the Chiefs. Like, are you going to spy on Lamar Jackson? Because there's nobody that you can put on him that's going to be able to stick with him the entire game if you spy him. And
Yeah.
like at that point, he's just going to be he just causes so many mismatches to a defense that like I'm trying to think about it and it's like making my head hurt. I can't even imagine like what these coaches have to deal with. Like they're just God, they're nasty. They're
Yeah.
just not like
Yeah.
there's too many things that you have to worry about, and this goes back to what I said earlier about how Todd Monken has done such a good job developing this passing game and turning it into a legitimate passing offense. Like the Ravens have always been able to run the football down your throat, and now that they're able to open it up and spread you out a little bit, pause, and throw the football, like what do you do? Like, and I'm not obviously their receivers aren't like world beaters, but they have good enough guys that can cause problems. Like I think Isaiah Likely is literally such a mismatch issue. Like you're gonna have to put a corner on him if he lines up in a slot. Like you can't match up a linebacker with him. He's bigger than linebackers and he's faster than linebackers. Like what do you
Even
do
yeah,
there?
even like last week, Lamar threw him a pass and he told him to throw it up for grabs. Like you literally saw it on TV, and he
Yeah.
goes and catches it over the guy's head, and like he looks really good. I just, yeah, I really want to see the Ravens win a Super Bowl. I want to see Lamar win a Super Bowl really, really bad. He's probably like I just need to see Lamar win one. I don't care if he falls off the face of the earth after winning one Super Bowl. I just need to see him win a Super Bowl because he's one of my favorite players who have entered the league in forever.
If Lamar wins a Super Bowl, all of the Lamar running back truthers are on the hot seat.
They're they're not only are they not even on the hot seat, they're just dead. Like that was the worst. Anybody who has ever had any like negative like to say about Lamar, in my personal opinion, is just like it's ridiculous. Like everybody wanted to talk about him not being able to throw the football. Like Lamar's always been able to throw the football. Everybody wanted to talk about how like he wasn't a great quarterback. Well, Lamar's won 2 MVPs in the NFL as a quarterback, and he's going on a run right now. This seems to be the first time where something fluky hasn't happened in a playoff run. Like I know that he missed one game because of a concussion. They lost one game like to the Titans at home. Like it just feels like this team is complete. It feels like that they're locked in, and I think that like that's my pick to win the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens go out and win their first Super Bowl.
Where do you
Or Lamar
stand?
wins his first Super Bowl. Sorry.
Where do you stand? No, first Ravens Super Bowl ever. Where do you stand if Lamar is doesn't win this game?
Man,
Where
I'll be
does that put you
sad.
mentally with like how you feel about him overall?
I think
Because
he's
at that point, like I think this kind of goes back to like the Josh Allen thing. Like, I still think Lamar's better, but they're both in that same spot where they can't win the big game.
yeah, I mean, I think this is like legitimately the first time that you would ever see Lamar like actually have to play in a big game.
That's his own fault though. Like you
I
got to
mean,
get
it's
to the big
not.
game.
I mean, it's not Lamar's. It wasn't Lamar's fault that he got a concussion in the third quarter in one of the playoff games, was it? It wasn't his fault that he had a torn PCL in last year's playoff game and they almost beat the Bengals in the first round.
Right,
Like,
but the best ability is availability.
yeah, but like that's just like you don't like try to get a concussion. Like,
Well, you don't try to throw incomplete passes either.
yeah, but he did. He was out on the field and didn't get the job done.
But that happened to like Lamar got hurt. Like that happened.
That is like the dumbest shit you've ever said.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
How I would feel about Lamar after this game is if he has the ball in his hands at the end of the game to go down and win it and doesn't do it, then like, yes, I'm going to be like, he isn't on that level yet.
Okay.
Like the same way Josh Allen's not on that level, even though
Well,
Lamar
I don't think anybody is on that level.
even
It's
though
only Mahomes.
Even though Lamar has won 2 MVPs, I think that he's a tick above, but like
I
I
agree.
don't think that he's like on that level. But like Lamar has proven now in his first like 5 seasons in the NFL that he is like the top caliber player like in the league. Like he might not be like quote unquote Mahomes, but like he is putting up serious numbers, leading teams to great records, putting up great stats himself. And like, I know that you said that you really love this, like, this skill position group for the Ravens. Like, Isaiah Likely is a really cool player, but he was a 5th-round pick out of Coastal Carolina and the backup to Mark Andrews. I know that like Zay Flowers is playing really well this year. I think he's a hit. Odell's been ghost. Nelson Aguilar makes plays for this team. Like you have Gus Edwards, who wasn't the starter to start the season. You have Justice Hill, who was the 4th string to start the year, who plays now because Keaton Mitchell beat him out, who was an undrafted free agent. And then you have Dalvin Cook, who was buried at the end of the bench in New York, which like it is what it is. Like Lamar and this coaching staff bring the best out of this group, and I don't think that that's like an could be overstated enough, because this skill group and like who they have playing for them, I think is like average. And I know, and like I think Zay Flowers is the best receiver he's ever played with, and like everybody else is kind of pedestrian. And I genuinely think that like Gus Edwards is an okay running back.
You're forgetting about Des Bryant.
Well, yeah, he was there for like, didn't he show up to one practice and tear his Achilles? Like,
I don't even remember. I just remember he was there at one point. But no, I agree with all of that. Like this is the best group of skill players that Lamar's had
yeah,
since he's been a Raven. But it's very like middle of the pack.
yeah.
So the fact that him and this coaching staff has been able to elevate that entire offense, like I said, I there has been no discussion about Todd Monken getting any head coaching jobs, which is like very surprising. Now I could have easily missed it, just how I missed the Bobby Slowick interviews,
There's
but
been some
like
buzz.
I
He
certainly
hasn't
think he
interviewed, but
deserves.
he's getting buzz.
Okay, well that is fair to hear because, like I said, I think he's done a phenomenal job. But yeah, I think that the Ravens skill position they're average, but they have like a lot of like good average players.
They have like they have like C plus
Yeah,
B minus players across
yeah,
the entire board. And I agree with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Last thing that I want to end on here. After this championship round weekend, what I'm going to go first. What is going to be your headline going into Monday morning whenever you wake up and you see on ESPN? My personal one is the Chiefs skill players failed Mahomes.
Oh, you're saying like what's going to be okay. Damn, that's a good one. Damn, that's tough. I wish I would have had a moment to prepare for
I can't
that because
listen.
that's a good one. I think
Literally, I just can't, like, when we were just sitting here talking about it, I just came up with it right now. So I didn't like prepare for it beforehand, just to let you know.
okay. Yeah, all right. I would say I'm trying to think of one for like the Lions winning,
Okay, go ahead.
but I
Cook it
can't
up.
like I'm trying like maybe just like Man Campbell.
Yeah.
Just straight up Man Campbell like
Man Campbell. What Super Bowl is this? What number?
I have no idea.
Man Campbell leads Detroit to Super Bowl 56. What, have they ever appeared in a Super Bowl before, the Lions?
No, Man
How about
Campbell leads the
Man
Lions to
Campbell?
first ever Super Bowl.
First ever Super Bowl appearance. Detroit on top.
Detroit on top. I mean, that would be special. I would be
So
fired up
that's
to
your
see that.
so from the sounds of it, sounds like we're gonna have a Lions Ravens Super Bowl. That's our prediction as of right now. That's what I gained from those headlines. So I'm gonna put a bet on it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking about like the Chiefs losing and your headline pretty much. It's going to be like the same thing that we've seen all year as these every analyst and whatnot blaming. I mean, to be fair, like we've blamed this receiving group for the Chiefs, but like
I haven't.
oh no, I was going to say like we have not blamed, but we've gotten on them because they're bad.
Yeah.
But we also have consistently said that this is their own fault.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, I agree with you, and I've said it multiple times that like everybody hated this receiving core like a ton, and then when MVS was making plays this weekend, Travis Kelce caught 2 touchdowns. Everybody like was pretty quiet about it. This is the same receiving core with a better option at Rashee Rice than they had at their out of the group that they pick. What I think is different in this situation is Eric Bieniemy probably had a little bit tighter hand on the personnel groupings and who he sent out there, because it just always seems like the personnel groupings who are out there to make the plays and who they're picking to make the play is always the wrong choice. Like no matter what, like it's always like, why did
yeah,
you just throw to MVS in that situation to win the game? Like that makes no sense. Why would you do a reverse jet sweep to Mecole Hardman, who's been absolute dog shit the entire game? Like just little things like that where you always question the Chiefs on like the personnel decisions and who's getting the ball when it matters. Like I think that just like doesn't get talked about enough, but I mean that's a conversation for another time, I guess.
yeah, I agree with you. But we can save that for the off season when we don't have football to talk about.
Well, you heard it here.
As the off season approaches, what I'm gonna do is I've been seeing just a lot of like, well, not a lot, but like scenarios here and there as far as like I saw one that we can touch on at a later date. These tweets, I'll send them to myself. So
Just bookmark them.
I have them here. Which of the 5 teams that did not make the playoffs this season are most likely to make a Super Bowl within the next 5? Just like shit like that we can go
Sounds great.
on about moving forward once football's done. Anytime you see stuff like that, just kind of keep an eye out for it and give us some fun thought experiments.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I wanted to make the announcement during the off season we'll be bringing on like a third co-host. So Cam Paul will be joining us probably for the entire off season. Sorry.
Great.
You
I was
didn't
actually
tell me?
like, I was actually shook because I thought you were going to say something crazy.
No, I was just kidding. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. So our scary hours prediction for the Super Bowl obviously is Lions Ravens. And I'm excited to watch these games this weekend. And let's hope that we see I definitely, like I said, I want to see Dan Campbell win one. Not win one because I want Lamar to win it, but be in the Super Bowl.
If it's Lions Ravens, it's win-win for me either way. Because like I'm right there with you. I want Lamar to win, but I also would like, I would also like Dan Campbell to win one, and it would be cool for Jared Goff for the sake of like them sending him away to die and him winning a Super Bowl with the team that they thought he was.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Never gonna get there with. So
we can agree.
Jared Goff and pro Jared Goff and pro Lamar Jackson this weekend.
So can we agree that the Niners and the Chiefs would be the worst Super Bowl matchup of all time?
It's a lose-lose because I'm gonna be extremely pissed off no matter what. I hate the Niners and I'm tired of Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah, that would be the worst case Ontario by far.
Well, right. You know what's gonna happen.
What?
we're gonna get some shit like that. We're gonna get the Chiefs in the Niners, and it's gonna suck.
No, I'm not putting that energy in the air because I don't want that to happen. I haven't even like in my head, like obviously I think the Niners are gonna win, but in my head the Chiefs are not making the Super Bowl. I don't care. I don't care.
I haven't had that thought until this second, so
no.
It's gone
right,
though.
brother.
It's gone though.
All right, dude. Good episode. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll text you. I'll probably text you later.
All right, go Birds.